Paper stacking high, deadlines pass us by. In the realm of compliance, we had to comply. Electronic whispers we didn't heed. I'm drowning in these loops, feeling the need. All the trails we missed, can't deny the truth. Trying to patch together like the search for you. I come by blue, you know they come my way. Safeguards left behind, all little street. Warning signs, they sound, but what to do? These FTC rules, they're haunting too. Oh, I need to try before the fines come high.
In a world of rules with a paper stack, high deadlines looming, close scared to pass by.
Early morning light shining through my window. Saxophone so feel no moment to let go. Walking the thin line between right and wrong. Trying to sing that sweet compliance song, yeah. Feeling the pressure, can't hide anymore. Rules and regulations knocking on my door. Got the FTC blues, so why you slipping away? Need to find a way to make everything okay. Can't get it right, can't let it slide. Safeguards a place on this long compliance ride. Taking clocks and powder bottles, then I closing it for miles and miles. Heart's gonna race, my deadline. Need a roadmap home in this compliance. Regulated gaze is heavy on my soul. All the these rules can't seem to find control. Rules weighing me down, rules chasing me along in this town. Gotta stand up, make it right. Set the safeguard tight tonight. Feel the swings, pressure mountain high. Gotta keep up, can't let myself die. Powerful forces question all I do. In this challenge, I need to see it through. Each step's a decision, a rule I must know. All decisions here must follow. Compliance slow. Compliance lose. It's a bad feeling. With each measure right, bending misbehavior.
Welcome to the weekly cybersecurity briefing. In the interest of making the best of everyone's time, cybersecurity briefings are always kept to 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat and they will be answered after the briefing. Without any further ado, here is your host, Ron Trotto.
Good morning, everyone. It's Friday. It's 10 a.m. That can only mean one thing. It is time for the cybersecurity briefing for November 15th, 2024. Wow. This month is going by quickly. So today's topic Today's agenda is FTC Safeguards. If you have ever heard me talk in front of a crowd, if you have ever watched one of our webinars, if we've ever had more than a 10-minute conversation, FTC Safeguards has probably come into focus at some point in time during those conversations. And here's why, and this is important why we're doing a quick 15-minute on this one, is that, so let's start in the beginning, shall we? The FTC Safeguards was originally invented, put into the picture, to help govern financial information that was stored in non-traditional financial institutions. Let's say, I don't know, PayPal. Let's just use them as an example. They didn't have to follow a lot of the rules because they're not a traditional bank. They did not fall underneath the Graham Breach Liley. They didn't have to comply with that stuff. So that's where this came from. And I believe it was around 2003 it came into existence. Where it impacts small businesses and where we really have to look at what we need is to look at as small businesses to see if we have to now comply. Was that in 2021, the safeguards were revised, but more importantly, in 2023, they were revised again. And really, the part that we have to focus in on to see if it applies to your company is that they broadened the term financial institution. So now, hold on before you go, oh, we're not a financial institution. We've got nothing to worry about. Well, hold on a second, because let me read off a little list here so you can see kind of what the spirit of that has included as being a FTC Safeguards required compliance company now. I'm just going to read off the list. So mortgage brokers. Okay, that makes sense. Wire transfers. That makes sense. Mortgage lenders. Makes sense. Credit counselors. Okay. Investment advisors not registered with the SEC. Got it. Entities acting as finders. Hold that one for a moment. Check printers. Your printing company has to be? Yes, they do. Financial career counselors. Ooh, okay. Account services. Yes. Travel agencies. What? Yes. Payday lenders. Sense. Financial advisors. Makes sense. Retailers with a credit card. Okay. Home appraisers. Ah, yes, that does make sense. It checks. Check cashers. Yes, right? They've got those numbers. The state settlement planners. Oh, yeah, they also have numbers. Collection agencies. Lots of numbers. Finance companies. Checks. Non-federally insured credit union. Checks. Automobile dealerships. Yes. Yes, they do. So let's go back, though, to finders, because we hit this a lot as the kind of a litmus test. So if you ever provide a customer with any type of financial access or financial application to a third-party lender, and it goes through you and you have some type of fiduciary interest in the result of that, you, my friends, are finders. So anyone that's giving out those things and those little applications and whatnot and bring it back, unfortunately, you're on the hook. You're also on the hook if you are regularly processing other types of financial information. A lot of times, credit reports, like applications for renting and stuff like that. People are going to be giving you their financial information. So keep that in mind. Technically, anyone who takes ACH, you shouldn't. It should always be a third party that deals with that for you. Also would fall under. So if there's ever a question around whether I fall underneath underneath this or not, it's probably a good time to reach out and talk to an expert in the field to find out if, in fact, your company does need to fall under safeguards. And safeguards aren't a horrible thing, it's just a reinforcement of good cyber hygiene under a more formal sense. Most companies should be doing this, in my opinion, anyways, if you store any type of information, including PII, of your clients and customers. So let's step through the list really quickly of what does it mean to be safeguards compliant? Well, safeguards rule itself mandates a bunch of stuff, but we're not going to get super technical. We're just going to go high level here. But let's start with really what we're trying to do at the spirit of things, right? So one of the first things we want to do is we really want to ensure that security, right? And the confidentiality of your customer, your client's information. We also want to protect against the anticipated threats or hazards to the security of that information, and to also protect against unauthorized access to that information that could result in substantial harm or inconvenience to any customer slash client. So that's kind of what the spirit of it is. How is it done? Well, it's done through a comprehensive information security program. It's also done through mandatory reporting if you have an incident. Now, if you have less than 500 people that are impacted by that, you probably don't have to report, but like everything else, there are rules and all sorts of charts and stuff that you need to go through. So if you ever do have a breach last week, it feels like last week, we covered what mandatory reporting looks like in the state of Connecticut. In addition to Connecticut, in addition to sometimes some federal alphabet soup that you have to reply to or report to, you will also have to report to the FTC within 30 days of the breach. So, but coming back to that information security program, some people I'm sure have heard the term WISP. We're actually doing covering that next week, the written information security. What is a written information security plan? It is exactly as it sounds. It's what we're going to kind of go through very quickly here in a written form. So it's documented, which is a part of what we need to do here. So first thing that we need to do is, well, we need to designate an individual to actually supervise this. It needs to be written in paper with some responsibilities around what they do. It doesn't mean that they have to be technical. It doesn't mean that they have to do all of the work. It just means that they're responsible for making sure that the work is done. What is the work? First and foremost, as always, conduct a risk assessment. Sound familiar? Broken record, right? We can't really mitigate risk if we don't understand it. If we don't know what it is, if we don't know the quantity of it, we don't know where it lives, how in the world are we going to deal with it? We can't. So we need to look at our business and really do a risk assessment to see where the risk lies, not only in the data information, but remember, we're also safeguarding against the integrity of that information, so no one can change it. How do we know if anyone changed it? We need to have audit logs in place to make sure that we can go back and look to see who changed it, when, what, how, where, right? So we need to have that in place as well. Once your risk assessment is done, then you really need to design the program around mitigating your risk. Some parts of it are pretty standard. I'll go over just a few now. Review your access controls. Security is part of this, physical security, so make sure those files are locked away. Make sure that the access to the area where that stuff is located, stored, etc., is also accessible to the general public. If needed, cameras, etc., to make sure that physical security is intact. Second thing comes out of that risk assessment, right? You know what you have and where it's stored. Very important. Third thing, encrypt your information. I cannot tell you how many times we go through assessments and we see laptops that have, or even desktops that have information. What does that mean? It means that if I were to grab that laptop, bring it back to my shop, I can copy all of the data right off that disk. I don't need to log into you. I can just mount that disk, copy the data right off. Encryption requires a key. That requires us to have some knowledge, new knowledge. And I am not getting that data without that, or a lot of compute power. So there is that. Your applications. Have you looked at your vendors and the applications? How do they deal with the data? Are they being good stewards of the data? Very important. We'll be doing a briefing on vendor verification shortly. Multi-factor authentication. We talk about this all the time. Something you know, something you have, something you are. Biometrics, by and large, are coming out of the picture now because no one wants the actual risk of having that information. If you lose someone's fingerprint and it gets out into the web, that could be a very bad thing, and it's not like you create a new fingerprint. So, really, it's one of the first two. Everything needs to have it. Access to systems, access to the cloud applications, access to your email. Everything needs to have it these days. Disposing of your customer information. What happens when you're done with it? And I'm not just talking about like on a computer, which is important that that computer's sterilized, even if it's encrypted. Why? Because the technology that's used to encrypt it today may have flaws tomorrow. So what is impossible for us to get to today may be a simple application that can just grab that data. We already have seen this with some older versions of how encryption works with BitLocker, certain chipsets. You had access to the physical computer, you're able to put a probe in, get that magic key, and actually decrypt the drive without knowing the magic number or access to the system. So always important. But not only that, what happens when you delete the cloud? What happens when you delete? Where does that data go? How about your backups? Are those secured? Because you have data that you've gotten rid of. You're probably keeping your backups for a while, right? So how do you manage that? Anticipate and evaluate those changes to your network. Changes happening every day in every way, especially in cyber. Your applications change. Everything you do changes. You have to be able to be agile and move your policies, procedures, understanding and risk mitigation along with what you're doing with cloud app you're using and how you're operating your business. And coming back to that whole evidentiary thing, right? We need to be able to provide evidence of who accessed what when. We need to provide evidence that things such as encryption have been on since day one. We need to provide evidence and have access to audit logs of general things that are happening. Why? Number one, to make sure that we didn't, when we have an event, that we can accurately describe what that event entailed, what had access granted to it that was not real. And it really helps with getting you back up on the tracks after an event. And it could mean the difference between a business ending event and a successful recovery. So those are the things. Oh, and training. I almost forgot training. We talk about training all the time. Why is training so important? Because the number one way the bad guys are getting in is through human fault. So the way we combat that is with just repeated training, repeated exposure. It's like doing fire drills. So that is my 15 minutes. Let's take some time to do some Q&A. Second week in our new system. So if I don't catch you, please just put your questions into the chats. whatever platform. We're running this on multiple platforms, so whatever platform you're on, put your questions into the chat. If I don't see anything within the next 35, 40 seconds, we'll close this out, but I will answer those questions. We give it a couple weeks, and I will make sure I watch all of those for at least a couple of weeks. Also comment, is this helpful? Any other subjects that you want to cover that we haven't covered so far? Any suggestions for improvement? Love to hear them all. Let's see. It's like someone's typing. Okay, so the question is, how do I know if my company needs to be compliant with FTC safeguards? So that is a very good question. And really, at the end of the day, just think about what those core pieces of what we were trying to cover underneath safeguards. Think about those for a moment. If you're within the spirit of that, I would say yes, do it. Again, I'm a little biased here because I think every company should be doing a lot of the things that FTC Safeguards is requiring just to be healthy and have good cybersecurity hygiene and not be impacted by security events. But the reality of it is there's a lot of confusion over what a financial institution is as defined in the safeguards rule. And you can go out to the Federal Trade Commission. If you just type in FTC safeguards, one of the top results will come from the Federal Trade Commission, which I believe is ftc.gov. If you see the ftc.gov in the URL, you are at the right site. And you can read through the official. If you fall into any of those companies that I listed or to the general auspices of the spirit of what we're trying to protect, then I would say yes, absolutely. Just make it happen. I think we're all going to have to do this as small businesses. And I think to keep our small business culture in this country, to make sure that the small businesses are resilient and strong as ever, we all have some due diligence to make sure that we do at least pieces of this in our own businesses. So, all right. Well, I don't see anything else at this time, so I think I will stop it for now. I think we are good for this week. I look forward to seeing everyone next week, and we'll put, as always, some links down below to some of our information. 2025 cybersecurity training grant program is well underway. I'll make sure that those links are in the comment section. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week.